Welcome one, welcome all to volume Who Cares of the NFC East Mixtape, the greatest crossover ever presented to you in the history of all worlds. You can listen to this podcast on any of the SB Nation NFC East team blog podcast networks. That's Blogging the Boys for Dallas Cowboys coverage, Bleeding Green Nation for Philadelphia Eagles, Big Blue View for New York Giants, and Hogs Haven for Washington Commanders. You can also watch this show on either the Bleeding Green Nation or Blogging the Boys YouTube channels. We have a lot of ways that you can access us. Who is us? He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. I am Marjorie Ochoa from Blogging the Boys. We are here to recap week 2 in the NFL and therefore the NFC East, preview week 3, which is all NFC Easty. And really, Brandon, I think the most important thing that happened in the sporting world on Monday night was the Houston Astros clinching the AL West. So congratulations to my Astros. Great job, us. We can kind of just, go home at this point.
Yeah, this is how you're dealing with the Eagles being legitimate Super Bowl contenders, beating your favorite quarterback in the entire NFL.
It was a rough Cousins. Night. It was a rough night. I had, we'll just say, a game hanging in the balance that actually involved the Astros. So check this out. I had a fun little, game. We'll call it a fantasy game hanging in the balance. They required 3 legs of a parlay, kind of like our 3-leg parlay that we do every single week on the Look Ahead over on the SB Nation NFL show. 2 of the legs were actually Houston Astros related. I needed Yordan Alvarez to score a run. I needed Alex Bregman to either score a run or score an RBI. And those 2 things happened on one play. Yordan Alvarez was on second base, and Alex Bregman drove him in. Boom, 2 birds, 1 stone. All I needed was a Justin Jefferson touchdown. That was it. That was all I needed. And Darius Slay said no over and over and over again. It was so painful. We have a lot to get to. I want to let everybody know that the Dallas Cowboys won last week, shocked the world. And I said that if they beat the Cincinnati Bengals, I would read my apology letter on behalf of my A.J. Brown take. So we'll get to that. I wrote a letter, which was actually
which makes a lot of sense. That really correlates somehow.
Well, I mean, look, it was about the Bengals and the Cowboys. I actually wrote a letter, which the podcast audience can't tell. I'm down. I'm down. This is a blogger's nightmare. My wrist is sore. I'm sure you've dealt with this before. We do a lot of hand turning action on the mouse or the keyboard. So I've got a little brace on my right wrist, but I wrote the letter nonetheless. I'm a trooper. Don't say that I'm not committed to my job.
You use a desktop?
No, I mean, I'm sitting at a desk, but it's a laptop and I have a mouse, but still, I mean, we push out a lot of content, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of stuff that happens here and I'm moving around a lot. And so, it's tough, but, we have to start,
if you will.
We have to start, as we always do, with the division leader. And after 2 weeks, it is the Philadelphia Eagles, who basically, are the toast of the town. The Philadelphia Eagles. Look, I had a tweet that upset a lot of Eagles fans. I know you were very busy. Did you see this? Did you see my tweet?
Yes, this is your coping.
So I tweeted what the broadcast noted, which was that the Eagles are the only team in the NFL to play their first 4 games of this season against teams who finished with below 500 records last year. It's a little tongue-in-cheek, seems like a bit of a layup if you ask me. Comment added to that. This is a hornet's nest, Eagles fans are. And so they were upset. Look, here's the thing. It is a tough scene for me that the Eagles beat my Vikings, that my MVP pick, Kirk Cousins, was just all sorts of incompetent on Monday night. What's frustrating about that is I still believe that the Vikings have one of the best offenses in the NFL, but the Eagles completely shut that down. And so now you're talking about an Eagles defense and Jonathan Gannon that are kind of living up to the other end of the bargain that Jalen Hurts and the offense are putting forth. I want to say right now, before you do, Brandon, this was what we needed to see from Jalen Hurts. This was the game that like the collective needed to see to believe that he has evolved, that he has grown, that he has taken a step. It's a small sample size, but there is no denying that there is an elite passer within him. How often that player shows up, it remains to be seen, but he was there all throughout Monday Night Football. It's stupid to say that anybody would win MVP after the first 2 weeks of the season, but I think if somebody did, it would be Josh Allen. I think Jalen Hurts is in the conversation, though.
Entering the 2022 Eagles season, the Eagles had 2 big, obvious question marks. Jalen Hurts, Jonathan Gannon. On Monday night, those question marks, RJ, were exclamation points, baby. Jalen Hurts had his best game by far.
Stupid.
I wrote that in my recap. I was proud of it. Anyway, Jalen Hurts was great. And you're right. This is the performance we needed to see. I know we got some flack, Conan, others, all the listeners who had to turn the podcast off, RJ, because we were so harsh on Jalen Hurts last week. That performance, I said, didn't really move the needle for me. It wasn't about him looking bad last week. I didn't know what that would portend for the future. And now, after this passing performance, where there's no way to qualify it as like, oh yeah, this, but like, no, like he made high level throws that honestly I've never really seen him make with any kind of regularity. And it didn't seem like fluky to me. Like he was in command. He was in control. Offensive line blocked well, sure. But like he took advantage of it. And then when they didn't, he made plays with his legs. His touchdown run, are you kidding me? On 3rd and 2 or 26 yards. If you can find a freeze frame of that where like he's being contacted at the 5-yard line. It looks like he'd be down.
Yeah, it's one of those like Jalen Hurts scores on this play,
exactly.
like things that is crazy. Yeah,
but it's crazy. It's like what quarterback is doing that? Like Lamar,
Josh Allen is the
and Josh
one.
Allen maybe, and like that's it. Like this is a rarefied air. It was the running, which is nice. It was a throwing, which is really again the needle mover and inspires a lot of confidence. It's week 2, but you look at the Eagles schedule like we did last week. You're like, if they win this game, the path is there. The path is so easy, and whatever the schedule is easy, and that's certainly fair to point out. But I mean, when you win like they did on Monday Night Football, that's not just about an easy schedule. And, it's a Vikings team that beat the Packers. Like that's a legit quality win.
I still believe it's a very, very good team. That's why I'm saying like it's a high quality win. This is when we look back at like they won't play a better team through Halloween. They will not. There will not be a better team that the Eagles play before Halloween that is better than the Vikings. And I know people take any opportunity to take shots at Kirk. He played really badly, but I think he played badly because he got worked. I think Justin Jefferson had a worse game than Kirk Cousins. People point at Kirk again. He's like the face of everything because he's just the character that he's become. But Darius Slay had his way with Justin Jefferson. I've made the argument myself. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and Darius Slay locked him down. Darius Slay took him away, and the Vikings offense was completely and totally inefficient. Back to the Jalen Hurts thing very quickly. It started off kind of like not low-hanging fruitish, but it started off kind of like the Quez Watkins touchdown. I was like, well, the dude's wide open. Like, come on, like who's going to miss this throw type thing? But
that was good
right,
scheming.
Like,
I think you have to give credit to like, yeah.
But he kept doing it over, and it wasn't just that. Like if it had just been that, like I don't know that you give Jalen like the props for that. But there's a long list of things you can give him credit for. This was it. This was the okay. Now we're ready to take you seriously game, Jalen Hurts. So now it's a matter of doing it again. Now it's a matter of okay. Now you're supposed to be an elite team. Go destroy Carson Wentz. Go eliminate all. Not that there's doubt, but like go get rid of it. Like go just be the great team that you're supposed to be. They took a huge step forward as an overall team. I don't know what the weakest part of this team is. I do think I heard Greg Rosenthal say this on the Around the NFL Monday Night Football recap show. Like let's chill out with the Jalen Reagor stuff. Like it's enough. You know what I mean? Like like what's up with the booing? Like this wasn't like a guy who, to my knowledge at least, like like if there's toxicity in that relationship, it's a one direction type thing. But whatever. I don't know what the
he didn't give his effort, like full effort. You cannot say that. Like a lot of players, you can say okay they were bad, but at least they tried. Like JJ Arcega-Whiteside, you could say that. Reagor does not fall in that category, so I don't have any problem with people booing him. There were times where he absolutely dogged it out there. He failed a conditioning test one year, and like I was listening to a Brandon Graham interview recently on Derek Gunn's podcast, and he even brought that up again, like how Reagor at one point like didn't come into camp in shape, so he absolutely did not like give it his all here.
What's the weakness? I need you to answer that question. What is the weakness on the Cowboys? The Cowboys. I'm reading. There's Cowboys news as we're talking. We'll get to that, but what is the weakness on the Eagles roster at the moment?
I mean, Gannon is still a question mark in terms of like bigger picture. This was one good very good performance, a step in the right direction. But I mean, when he's been torched by good quarterbacks like he has in the past, it's not like this game erases all doubt in that regard. So I still think there are questions about him. I think the pass rush could be better. Not that it's terrible, but I don't think it's as dominant as it kind of needs to be and could be and should be. So that's an issue. Man, I keep coming back to Hurts, and I'm so impressed. And it's funny because some people will be like, "Oh, BLG, you're such a hater. You were wrong." I'm like, I'm glad I'm wrong. I'm not rooting against him. I'm being honest with you. And it doesn't. One of my other favorite things is like, "Oh, this must hurt you so much to tweet this." No, it doesn't. It does not hurt me to tweet out what like I objectively think is true in front of me. Like it's just being honest. That's all I try to do.
There are two things that people often allow to not be the case. One is that we can get new information and things can change. Oh, no, you said on the day they drafted so-and-so that he was going to suck. Yeah, I said that then because like it looked like that. Then things changed, and I was wrong. Like respect. You're saying I was wrong. That's the first thing. The other thing is something we say very often. We're gonna have to turn this into a segment, a multiple things can be true thing. Kind of like the Eagles can have 4 games to start their season that look easy on paper. That can be true just as much as it can be true that they had their way with the Minnesota Vikings. The game against the Lions was a little bit suspect. Maybe the Lions are going to be cute or whatever. Like, multiple things can be true. People often don't allow that to be the case. Huge win for the Philadelphia Eagles. I do want to get through all of our game recaps rather quickly because we have 2 big-time games to preview. I also have my letter to read. I feel like now is probably the time to do that just because we're talking about the Eagles. Okay, so in case anyone is unaware, my take was that the Philadelphia Eagles lost the A.J. Brown trade. And that was more centered around the compensation. It was never about A.J. Brown being a bad player. But I said if the Cowboys beat the Cincinnati Bengals, I would write a letter and I would read it. I wrote it. So are you ready for this? Here we go. To whom it may concern. This past offseason, I, RJ Ochoa, stated that the Philadelphia Eagles lost the trade that they executed with the Tennessee Titans. The primary terms of this trade involved wide receiver A.J. Brown and Philadelphia's first-round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. My take centered around the idea of value. We have seen many wide receivers enter the NFL and hit the ground running right away. Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson serve as very recent examples. And there were many people, excited about this year's top rookie prospects. The Titans selected Treylon Burks with the pick that they received from Philadelphia, and I'm not ready to write off his future, but that is a different subject. Extremely loyal listeners of the NFC East Mixtape will know that BLG and I's look-ahead co-host, Rob Stats Guerrera, vehemently defended this overall idea through no fault of my own and completely of his own accord. Nevertheless, I have come to wave the white flag. It is apparent that A.J. Brown is a mechanism that is helping to unlock the Eagles' offense. He may very well not have a tremendous impact from a statistical standpoint. He might, obviously, but the trade has only served to better the Eagles. The genesis of my argument is one I feel strongly about, considering I noted that every team who gave up significant resources for a wide receiver would not be able to properly recoup their investment. Just look at the Raiders with Devontae Adams, or the Cardinals with Hollywood Brown. It is hard to live up to a significant investment. But Howie Roseman played it right. I have long said he is a great builder of a roster. I don't know how he somehow has multiple first-round picks in next year's draft on top of all of this. I am sorry.
So if the season ended today, which I checked in, the New Orleans Saints, do you know where they would be picking, and thus the Eagles would be getting that pick at?
I don't, but I think that's dumb.
It's dumb, but I'm just like, just for perspective right now.
Wow, that was beautiful, RJ. I was kind of expecting a round of applause. Whatever. It's
8th overall. Like, and if they had if only the Falcons had held on last week, then it would be a top 6 pick, which is crazy right now.
I really am not ready to give up on Treylon Burks. That's a different subject. I'm sure you were busy getting ready for the game. He had a huge 3rd and 16 conversion for the Titans on Monday Night Football. He's, but again, the trade worked out for the Eagles. So I was wrong. I'm sorry. All right. All right. We have to wait for the Cowboys, but there is news. So the second team in the division, currently the only other undefeated team, the New York back at football Giants. All right. You went into the icebox on the look ahead in picking the Giants over the Carolina Panthers. They were victorious. They are 2-0. If you're really trying to poke holes in somebody's 2-0 record, I think it's them. I actually mentioned on Monday on the NFL show that the Bucs might be the worst 2-0 team. The Giants are in consideration for that. They beat the aforementioned Titans and obviously the Panthers. But good for them. We're seeing a lot of go for it stuff. We're seeing that all over the place this season. I actually heard Lindsay Rhodes mention on her podcast that they are going for things in the way the Lions did last year, which was your take. So this is about making work more fun. This is about making people proud to be a part of your organization. I do think that Brian Daboll is doing that, which is really starting to suck.
Yeah, and also find a way to beat the bad teams. And I think the Panthers, I have them dead last in my power ranking. So I do think they're terrible.
Who's 31 for you if the Panthers are 32?
Let me look real quick. I didn't post them yet because it's been busy, but I wrote
the order down. It's a team that starts with an F.
I have the Falcons.
Oh, wow. I meant F for frauds. It's the Indianapolis Colts, but it's funny that you actually had a team.
I have them third. They're third to last. So, you're splitting hairs at that point. But the point is that the Giants do have a week 2-0, but whatever. You'll take it. Who cares? If you're the Giants fans, you're like, sure, we beat some bad teams, but we actually did it, which is nice for a change. But I do think the Panthers are terrible. I think the Titans, clearly, who just got destroyed by the Bills, are not good. missing A.J. Brown, kind of a big deal, specifically for Ryan Tannehill. That's the other side of it. Just seeing not only like the impact he has for the Eagles, but also the impact without him is a giant deal. So no pun intended. Nothing too flashy about this. You look at the box score. Daniel Jones is at 87.4 passer rating. Saquon only averaged 3.4 yards per carry. The leading receiver was Richie James. Shout out to stats with 51 yards. Like, this is not any kind of flashy, amazing performance, especially by the offense. They only put up 19 points. But hey, whatever it takes to beat a bad team. That's what this Giants season is about, is finding the bright spots where you can. And, it's not, I think Giants fans are probably well aware they're not going to be pushing, for the NFC East crown or anything like that, but they can enjoy this moment and be like, hey, we're 2-0. We'll take it.
I want to give the Giants props for something specific. I don't have snap counts or anything in front of me. I don't know if you do. It's difficult for me to move quickly on my computer and my state. But yeah, I know. I love, and I don't mean to like shame anybody, but I love, because I'm not the Eagles fans with Jalen Reagor. I love how Brian Dable is like, oh, Kenny Golladay, you kind of suck. Yeah, we're not going to play you. Like, I don't care what your contract is. Like, we're not. I love that. Like, I love that about
some cost fallacy.
Exactly. Yeah. Brian Dable doesn't care, and I respect that. John Mara and the Giants front office and ownership group is supporting him. I respect. Like, you have to give your coach your full, absolute, complete, total trust, and it feels like they're doing that. It may not work out. Like, I'm not saying that they're going to win a Super Bowl or be a perennial playoff team under Brian Dable, but they have turned the corner. Like, the darkest part of the night is behind them. It had not felt that way for a very long time with the Giants franchise. So good for them. And they are favorites against the Dallas Cowboys on primetime. I mean, some of that is the lack of Dak Prescott, obviously, but still, I mean, like, how this has got to be so much fun if you're a Giants fan. Like, you got to be having such a good time. And how long has it been since you have felt good about the state of your team?
Yeah, it's kind of like a house money situation where you're not expecting much this year anyway, and anything they do is kind of gravy, and it sets you up in a position where, comparing them to the Lions, I mean, Lions fans are juiced about this current season, coming off the season they were just on, and I'm sure Hard Knocks helps with that. Maybe the Giants can find themselves on Hard Knocks next year. That'd be good for them.
I tell you what, we don't talk about them a lot. They are a sneaky candidate for Lamar Jackson if that doesn't work out, right? Like, for whatever, like, Russell Wilson is lurking. We have kind of talked about Russ with, go blue, but like they are a sneaky candidate because they're building the right way. And all of a sudden that media market value is a real thing because you're now a legitimate and functional NFL franchise. So,
and I trust Shane to like do the right thing at quarterback, at least at some level. Like, I feel like he's going to put a good effort forward and not just, totally blow it by taking the next Daniel Jones or whatever.
Let's move on so we can get to our previews very quickly. The Washington Commanders lost to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions getting a lot of pop around here. The Giants kind of compared to them. The Eagles beat them in week 1. The Giants lost to them. Shout out to Jeremy Reisman, our coworker over at PredadeTroit.com. Make sure you check them out. They made it a game though at the end. I mean, like, I'm not trying to like, hand out like,
it's the wrong takeaway. I think the takeaway is that they got blown out by the Lions.
My takeaway is like, if like evaluating from a Cowboys perspective, like that offense is legit. I mean, and I don't mean legit like it's a top 10 or like it's definitely top 10, but like it is legit. It's an offense that can, kind of make a game out of something. And it hadn't been that way for a long time either. Like, they are improved. I mean, you can make an argument that outside of the Eagles right now, obviously, that they have the best, most explosive offense in the division. I don't know how you can. Jahan Dotson looks like a huge hit. Like, I mean, like, you got to give them credit for that pick. Like, he looks out. I'd say right now, Drake London looks like the best rookie receiver. And then Jahan Dotson's right behind him. Maybe Garrett Wilson, if you're feeling that way after last week.
But it all comes down to the guy under center sometimes. And the mistakes don't go away. I mean, I was looking this up before the show here. He had a fumble in this game, which was a big deal because he fumbled in the end zone. Okay, that's a safety. The Lions scored a touchdown on that ensuing drive. It's a 9-point play. 9-point. It's a 2-possession game.
Right.
Lions went up 12-0. Guess what? How much did the Commanders lose by on Sunday? 9 points. So, like, that's the game right there. And, just zooming out, Wentz is up to 67 fumbles in 87 games. And I was like, I want to contextualize that. So I looked up his fellow members of the 2016 NFL draft class, the quarterbacks. Jared Goff. Remember Jared Goff, like tiny hands. Oh, he's going to fumble a lot.
Yeah. The OG Kenny Pickett. Yeah.
And I think he even has like a reputation for that, maybe. to some at least than Wentz does, or like similar. Goff has only fumbled 52 times in 85 games, so 2 fewer games than Wentz and 15 fewer fumbles. If you want to compare him to Dak, your boy, Dak is at 48 in 86 games, so 1 fewer game and 19 fewer fumbles. Like it's such a high rate, and it's a problem. It's never not going to be. It's not going away. It's always going to be a problem. It's going to show up at times, and that's ultimately going to hinder their ceiling. Yes, I agree with you that they can do some nice things on offense, but you're waiting for it, RJ. You're waiting for the bad play. You know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of like, will it happen at a time that totally screws us, or can we kind of work around this? So that's a big issue.
I agree with you entirely. And I'm not just trying to look at only the positives, because the negatives matter. And the Giants and Commanders are in different places from one another. Like the Commanders are trying to compete and kind of have a roster that can compete. We're halfway home, by the way, seemingly, to Chase Young playing for them. We'll see if he only misses 4 weeks. But
that's a big deal.
Right. But so like, I think if you ask any Commanders fan, right, who they've all been through a lot, but if you ask any of them, I think they will 1,000,000% take this over the alternative. Or like
for now, yes.
Yeah,
for
like I mean, like you can't, because people say that all the time, like, oh, this quarterback stinks. And I'm not saying like that's a bad take, generally, but like, what's the option? Like, what's the feasible option? Like, who like, and I think we laughed at the Carson Wentz trade, but like, is that not from the value it's provided to the offense?
No.
Like, it is one of the, I mean, it was one of the better moves. It was better than Matt Ryan.
You're paying a premium for competency,
but still, you're getting stable play. You have a stable offense.
Okay, but what are you going to do with that?
They've won a game. They're in the mix.
Okay, great. They won a game against who? The Jags.
Look, but still,
a team that hasn't won on the road since 2019.
They got the best of the Indianapolis Colts. They agree with it. You agree with that at least?
I mean, I guess
the trade was worth it. The trade was, what was the trade? A second and a third round pick, or what was it? A third and a fifth?
I think it's a third and another third that can become a second, which probably will, assuming he doesn't get hurt.
It's totally worth stable franchise quarterback play. It's totally.
I don't think so. I think you can get decent quarterback play without giving that and paying the money, and now kind of being in this Kirk Cousins purgatory kind of world that they're in, basically.
What was the alternative? Do nothing and have Taylor Heineke? Like, I'd rather have this.
In terms of long-term health of the franchise, probably take a step back to hopefully take a step forward in the future to maximize wins this year. No, this is the right move.
Who's the last quarterback they drafted that was, legitimate? I mean, I don't know, like, Kirk Cousins, right? Like, which was an accident. I'm not an accident, but like, Robert Griffin had the year. Awful. Like the way that they have, I mean, so I think this was one of their better decisions over the course of the offseason. I'm not saying, like, I don't think it's fair to grade that by saying, oh, well, they didn't win the Super Bowl, so it was a terrible decision. No, like I
don't think anyone is saying that, though. But like, what is their ceiling with Carson Wentz?
They're like, they could be a playoff team. That's their ceiling.
Okay, like a wild card team in a weak NFC. That's like what we're really celebrating here.
I think right now, the division is Philly and Washington until I see more from the Cowboys. I mean, like, I'm not, just because of last week's whatever win, I'm not willing to put the Cowboys in this mix yet. We'll see what happens with that.
Change everything.
But like, if Washington, like, right now, I'm not saying Philly's a mirage. We gave them their flowers, but like, could all like go away. We've seen Jalen Hurts play poor quarterback, or play quarterback poorly, and so they have the necessary ingredients to be a legitimate team in the NFL. And they don't even have their best player right now in Chase Young. So I think the Commanders are in a nice spot. They lost to a team that a lot of people think highly of in the Detroit Lions. So we'll see what happens this week, but we'll get to the preview. Are we ready to get to the Cowboys?
Two last things on Wentz. The flea flicker throw was, what was that? Like, I don't even know who he was throwing to or where he was throwing to on that play. And then the pick he had, like, it was thrown high, like he does. He sails passes. So that's just, like, again, a staple of him, something you're just not seeing getting better. And it's going to be an issue. You're going to have to live with that. And I don't think you can live with that, but we can get to the basement team in the NFC East, a team that won, but still at the bottom.
Yeah, for the second straight week, 3 of the 4 teams won. Last week, the Cowboys only ones to lose. This week, the Commanders, because the Cowboys got that dub for the second year in a row, Brandon. Actually, the third year in a row, the Cowboys kicked a game-winning field goal in week 2 of the season. But for the second year in a row, it came against an AFC team who had a quarterback from the 2020 NFL draft class. The final score was 20-17. That's all cool stuff. Look,
is it?
this was awesome. This is another, like, my two takes that have aged the best, I think, like NFL wide. A week ago, I think the Vikings were up there, but my two right now are that the Colts are frauds and that the Bengals aren't exactly the, like, toast of the town, right? I think this was more about the Bengals being a really bad team, but kudos to the Cowboys, kudos to Cooper Rush. They did it. They surprised all of us. There's a lot of Cowboys fans, a lot of Cowboys homers taking some victory laps, and I'm not trying to just be Eeyore and rain on the parade. Brandon, they scored 20 points. Cool. Awesome. Respect. They've scored 2 touchdowns this season. They both came in the first quarter. So they have scored in 1 of 8 quarters so far. Scored touchdowns this season. Again, there's 2, so you got to give them credit for that. But still, the first one was their opening possession of the game. So, like, your scripted series, right? That you should do very well on your opening possession of the game. So kudos to the Cowboys that they did that. Their second one was the next possession. Tony Pollard had a 46-yard play that ruled them down at the 1-yard line. So this massive inflation that moved the ball. After that, nothing. After that, there was no offense. They just took their foot off the gas. They were content to just, like, kind of try to outlast the Bengals and hope that Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs would save them, and they did. And kudos to them. Kudos to Cooper for engineering a last-second game-winning drive, and kudos to Brett Maher for making the field goal. But the recipe is still not a sound one. Like, this isn't a results-oriented process. We say that all the time. I mean, they're 1-1. They bought themselves some time. Maybe Dak Prescott can get back, and that's a good thing. But there are, like, my concern is that they're going to look at this and feel justified in all of the poor decisions that they still somehow overcame. They're going to look at the like surface area stuff, like, oh, well, we beat the Bengals, we beat the AFC champions, like, what, look at us. Like, no, that doesn't mean what you think it means. Like, that's cool and that's awesome, but, like, you still have to keep trying, try harder, because you're not trying hard enough right now.
I think the point you hit on in there is poignant, and that is that, this buys you some time. Like, you just need to steal a game and hope that Dak can get back at some point and get healthy, and then you can get things together at that point. So from that standpoint, obviously, Cowboys fans have something to feel good about. I think Cooper Rush probably played better than you probably would have expected him to. Sure. And most people, not that he was, like, great, but, like, better. And pairing that with last year's game against the Vikings, it's like, okay, maybe they can kind of continue to tread water. Maybe not like you feel amazing about it, but, like, okay, I'm not ready to rule it out entirely. So that's definitely the positive. I do agree there is something to, really, honestly, the Cowboys being qualified to take advantage of the Bengals' distinct weakness, which is after, an offseason, much was made about how the Bengals fixed their offensive line. Well, apparently they didn't, because they've allowed 13 sacks and 20 quarterback hits in the first 2 weeks. That is, Joe Burrow doesn't have a chance back there. So that's kind of a big deal. It's again, in a vacuum, it's a good win. But I don't know what it really means for the Cowboys moving forward, other than they're treading water.
I've seen a lot of chatter this week, and this is upsetting. So there's a lot of people. Tyler Smith has been awesome. He really has. Like, and I said in our postgame show, I've written it, Cowboys, take a victory lap. You earned it. Like, you believed. We all pointed. We all laughed. Dunk on us. I'm cool with that. Awesome. But there are a lot of people who are like, well, they should play Jason Peters at guard, right? Like, they should kick Jason Peters over to the right side. No, because of 2 games, right? Like because of 2, like, respect. Tyler Smith looks like he's going to be a very promising left tackle in the NFL. But, like, this, like, the fans who are proposing that are doing the same thing that we accuse the Cowboys of doing, of, like, living in the moment, living off of 1 sample size and thinking that, like, everything's just going to be perfect because it was that way for 2 games. And again, kudos to the team, kudos to Tyler Smith. But Tyler Smith should be your left guard with Jason Peters as your left tackle. I don't like, nothing else makes sense to me. So I don't want to really spend a lot of time.
Peters has played at guard. If you didn't know that, he did.
I know.
Play. Okay.
I know, but, like, still, like, he's played at guard, and that's a microscopic sample size of his entire NFL career. Like, they didn't bring him in to play guard. You know what I mean? So, like, and, like, while they should adjust to new information, they, like, I'm a big fan of trusting yourself when you're not emotionally compromised. They brought him in to be the left tackle of this team this season. Do that. Don't be like, oh, well, Tyler Smith's awesome now, like, let's go do it. No, just trust your past self and move forward in that direction.
I don't fully agree with that, but okay. I think, if the young guy's playing well, maybe keep him in there. Don't change things up and shake his confidence, maybe. But
the problem, like, I guess for some context, the Cowboys have left guard issues, like, right now. That's a problem. Connor McGovern's hurt. Matt Farniok played okay on Sunday, and they beat the Bengals. But, like, you can't just say, well, they beat the Bengals with Matt Farniok, so it's going to be fine. No, like, if you play Jason Peters at left tackle, you improve 2 positions. That's a big part of why. It's not just that Peters has played left tackle for, like, 90 98% of his NFL career, which is a significant thing, but you improve 2 positions. You get your best 5 offensive linemen out there. And again, you do what you intended to do when you brought Jason Peters in the very first place. But what distracted me when we first started, Brandon, the Cowboys did waive a player just a few moments ago for you and I in real time, and that is undrafted free agent wide receiver Dennis Houston. Brandon's doing the wave with his hands. Dennis made the roster largely due to a connection that he had with Dak Prescott. As mentioned, he was an undrafted free agent, and he was active for the first 2 games of the season when the team's 3rd-round pick wide receiver Jalen Tolbert was not. So is this an indication that Michael Gallup is ready to play? Is this an indication that Jalen Tolbert is going to be active moving forward? But, well, I mean, like, it would seemingly be one of those things, right? I mean, and they intimated that Gallup could play next week on Monday night against Washington. I would lean towards it being that, because it'd be silly to waive a player, for a question mark on Jalen Tolbert. So they must feel very, very confident that Michael Gallup's going to be back, but we'll see if that ultimately winds up being the case.
Why don't we take a break here, and then we'll snake back with the picks for this week?
Ooh, the snake's going to be short because there's only 2 games, but a very quick break to hear a word from our sponsors. Welcome back, Brandon. This brace on my right hand is clunky. I don't like it.
I once tore a ligament in my thumb. I don't know if people can see. There's a scar right here, like right in this crease here. I had a pin in my thumb. I'm also trying to show you the side. This is gross stuff, but there's somewhere there where I was playing flag football and I tried to go for the ball because I thought the person was holding it loosely. And there aren't really fumbles in flag football because, if the ball goes on the ground, you don't want people piling up and getting hurt. Sure enough. So but I felt like it was fair game if I could just rip it out if they weren't holding it securely. They happened to be holding it more securely than I thought. I went to go for the ball and I just jammed my finger. It didn't really even hurt. I went to go pick up the ball away from the play after the play ended because I didn't get his flag down. He ran by me, so I went for the ball. And I did one of these, RJ, where I didn't even look at it, and I went to go pick it up like this, but I couldn't grab it like I do of this case right now. My thumb here was just hanging down. So it didn't hurt at all. And I actually went to the ER, and they're like, yeah, you're fine. And my dad was like, wait, no. Show them what you can do with your thumb. And they're like, oh my God, that is not good. So yeah, I had a brace for a long, that was from January in my freshman year, 2007 until May or so with the physical therapy and everything. So I feel you, not fun.
That reminded me, for the ligament reason, I guess. Tom Moore, the longtime Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator, the one who has the quote that everybody brings up, we don't give our QB2 reps because if Peyton goes down, we're effed and we don't practice effed. I once heard on a Sunday night broadcast, maybe I dreamt this, I made it up, but I'm pretty certain that I heard on a Sunday night broadcast he tore the ligaments in either his index finger or his index and his middle finger. When you put your shoes on and how you kind of use your fingers as a natural shoehorn, he was doing that and tore the ligaments or something in his finger. That's crazy. That's way crazier than your story.
Well, I mean, again, and I don't know how much of this applies to Dak and his specific injury, but again, for me, there wasn't pain. It wasn't about pain. It wasn't oh, this hurts. No, it was just about functionality. He couldn't use it. It was not staying in place.
All right, so we have 2 games this week. We need a word. Is it NFC East Mageddon? Is that what we call it when we have a week like this where we're just 2 games between the 4 teams? Or NFC East Palooza, NFC East Apocalypse? I like NFC East Mageddon the most personally.
I think NFC East Apocalypse might be the best.
Fine. NFC East. So the Apocalypse is here. Oh, yeah, I like that because you can't say the Mageddon is here, but you can say the Apocalypse is here. All right, we have Apocalypse upon us. The Philadelphia Eagles will be visiting the Washington Commanders. We got the Peterson Reich Bowl last week. We will now get the Carson Wentz Philadelphia Eagles Bowl. But first, not first. This actually game is happening second, but we're snaking back. The Dallas Cowboys visiting the New York Football Giants on Monday Night Football. By the way, I know you were at the game working it, but I don't ever want this dueling Monday Night Football thing ever again. It was awful. I hated it. Did not like it whatsoever. The best part about Island games is that we all get to watch it and enjoy it together. It was very, very frustrating.
I hate Monday Night Football from a content creator perspective, it's really bad for me. No one cares, but I slept like 2 hours last night. It's bad.
It's awesome when it's Sunday and you're like, this is great. Like I get to just watch all the games, but there's so much stuff in our world that you have to do on Tuesdays that's like independent of your game. Yeah. And so like when you're smushing together post-game coverage with all the Tuesday stuff, it can be very overwhelming.
You're automatically behind the 8 ball. You're screwed.
Our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook, who sponsor us over at the SB Nation NFL show, Brandon, have the New York Giants. They opened as 3-point favorites over the Dallas Cowboys. That has shrunk. They are now 2.5-point favorites over the Cowboys. Again, Dallas 1-1, New York 2-0. Cooper Rush, Daniel Jones. I know that Cincinnati's offensive line is suspect, which is sad. But this really comes, you know how the social study we talked about prior to the season was 1 of 53, where it's like Dak Prescott versus the Philadelphia Eagles, right? I don't think the 1 of 53 on the Cowboys is Dak anymore. I think it's Micah. Like, dude, he is a different dude. Like, he is incredible. And so, like, if he can get to and fluster Joe Burrow over and over again, I really like his odds against Daniel Jones.
I agree, because for as much as Carson Wentz fumbles a lot, Daniel Jones tends to have that issue as well. If not fumbling, certainly throwing the ball to the wrong team. So I don't know. I think there could be a little bit of an overreaction to this Cowboys win. Be like, they're going to be fine. Because like you said, I think that offense is going to be an issue. At the same time, there also could be an overreaction to the Giants being 2-0 and be like, see, they're kind of good. And like, I think they're better. Yes, but they're better than being really bad. And I still think they're not great. And, it's not even like they won these games convincingly. They beat the Titans by 1 point late in the game. They beat the Panthers by 3.
That was partly due to a missed field goal. But like they did win that game so give them.
I'm not trying to take credit away. I'm just saying it's not like, commit like beating these teams comfortably.
Not the way the Bills are winning as an example.
Yeah, right? So like, credit to them for winning, all the credit, but they're not quite as good as a 2-0 team typically would be, I feel like. So it's tough. What's the line in this game? Did you say that?
I already said that several times. The Giants are 2.5-point favorites, and they opened as 3. So it has moved. I wish it were 3. I would have taken it at 3. I'd still take it at 2.5. The more points I can get, obviously, the better. I do think that the Giants are the least stable 2-0 team. The Bucs would be for me if Tom Brady didn't exist. And I know there are questions about him, but like at the end of the day, he's Tom Brady.
Yeah, you get the built-in benefit of the doubt there.
Right.
Yes.
So again, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Giants, but prove it again. And this isn't even about proving it, but like, okay, like don't, you have not been the Giants we've seen for a long time. And Brian Daboll, again, deserves an enormous amount of credit for that. But with Micah Parsons, and it's not just Micah. Like Micah, again, is this like amazing player, but the entire Cowboys defense is playing very well. Regression to the mean has come for them. We have to admit that. They had 6 takeaways through the first 2 games of the season a year ago. They have 2 through the first 2 games this year. However, they are finding ways to mitigate that. And that won't be the case all season long in all likelihood, but that is really impressive. Give Dan Quinn his respect and his kudos as well. So that being said, like, I was going to bring this up, but we have obviously so many things to get to. If we had to rank like the sides of the ball, like all 8 in the NFC East, I do think the best one is the Cowboys defense. And I think the best coordinator of all 8 is Dan Quinn. Well, I do. I mean, they have the best, like if we picked the best player in the division, it's Micah Parsons, right? Like if we picked one player who's the best, it's him. And so, I mean, I give them that, but like number 2 for me is the Eagles offense, and number 3 might be the Eagles defense. So like, that's why I'm very, very interested to watch that game. So again, I'm not trying to be a homer, but I think that's objectively fair. I think the Giants offense might be like 5th. And so, I mean, I kind of trust Micah and the rest of the Cowboys defense to figure out a way against Daniel Jones. I don't know that I think Cooper Rush can drive up and down the field, but I think he'll get a lot of short fields because it's Micah Parsons.
There's so many Cowboys Giants games in, I don't know, the past, 6 years, whatever. I guess probably since Dak got there, but maybe even longer, where like you don't even really feel like the Giants have a chance. And coming at that from an Eagles perspective, it's like, the Giants aren't going to help the Eagles. They're not going to like beat the Cowboys and like give, the Eagles a break. No, that's not going to happen. I feel like that's different. And obviously, Dak being out helps, but I do feel like Daboll being here and the positive things that they have shown makes me feel like they can win this game. And that is progress. That is not something I have felt like in a long time going into a Cowboys Giants matchup, but I don't think you can give them the benefit of the doubt just yet. So I'll take the Cowboys to win, but I do think it'll be a competitive game.
I do too. I think it'll be closer than usual. Dak is basically undefeated against the Giants in terms of his career. Obviously not a factor, but Giants wearing their throwback all white uniforms. So we get Giants all whites.
Oh wait, that's the good one, right?
Yeah, like it's kind of throwbacky.
I don't like the other one
with the block Giants on the helmet, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the Cowboys navies in this game. Last time that happened on a Monday night, it was the Black Cat game. I'm sure you remember when the cat was in the stadium.
I do.
Whatever.
It was what, like 2019?
It was.
I think so.
Okay, so we both have the Cowboys. So we obviously both have them covering. Let's go to the other matchup. So by the way, so then again, that is happening. That's the last game of the week. But as of now, the Eagles are the only undefeated team in the division in our eyes. They are 6.5-point favorites against the Washington Commanders. To put that in perspective, the Kansas City Chiefs, again, all these lines courtesy of our friends at DraftKings, the Chiefs are 6.5-point favorites over the fraud Colts. And I don't see another. Oh, the Chargers are 7-point favorites over the Jaguars. But that's it. There's no line bigger or even with that one through. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm looking way too far ahead. The Chargers next week are 7-point favorites over the Texans. But so this is expected to be one of the bigger blowouts of the week, which I think is a little disrespectful to the Commanders. Like, all credit to I think I'll tell you right now, I think the Eagles are winning this game, but I kind of like the points. Again, like especially if you go garbage time type stuff, like I really like the points from a Washington perspective. We saw that happen against Detroit.
Points are tempting. It's going to be an emotional game, I'm sure, for Carson Wentz. First opportunity to play the team that traded him. By the way, who are you rooting for in this one? You're rooting for the Washington Commanders to win, correct?
Yeah.
From a Cowboys perspective, obviously.
Yeah. Well, and from like an RJ perspective, it would be funnier.
Well, I don't care about that.
It would be funnier if Wentz won. Like, it would be really.
I get that, but I'm talking about like in terms of what's best for the
they're
Cowboys.
one and the same. Like, and like my take has been that Wentz is a serviceable quarterback that the Colts stupidly punted on. So it would be funny for that take if Carson continued to prove that he was legitimate. Yeah, I'm 100% rooting for the Commanders in this game.
And then, I think it should be obvious that, if you're an Eagles fan, you're still rooting for the Giants to win. Because, okay.
I think, like, this is why the mixtape is great, because we can, like, just be straight up about things. I think if you're an Eagles fan, it doesn't make you a lame fan to be like, I'm kind of scared of the Cowboys. I'm kind of scared of them treading water and Dak Prescott coming back.
Yeah, I think they have a better chance to
come back to life than the Giants staying hot all season long.
Exactly. Right, exactly. Yeah, you're like, the Giants will fade off. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty obvious. If anyone else disagrees, you can tweet at us at Brandon Gowton, at RJ Ochoa, also on Instagram. Those handles make it easy for you. I think the Eagles are going to win this game, and it's tough, short week, but they travel well to FedEx Field. There's going to be a lot of midnight green in those stands. Carson Wentz is going to make mistakes. Like, I can set my watch to that. My Apple Watch Series 3 that I need to get a new one. This actually popped off this summer, RJ. I was playing pickup basketball, and the screen popped
football,
off.
Basketball. Talk about your athleticism.
I know. I'm a big athlete over here. And I went to Home Depot.
6'9". Although, by the way, I've heard rumors that is not true.
Okay, don't say. Yeah, you're feeding into a bit. Don't feed into a bit.
So the listeners know, Brandon is actually 6'5". And he's trying to get everybody.
How much did Holden pay you to say this?
I'm telling you that I've seen verifiable proof that you are only. When I say only, like, respectfully, 6'5" is really tall, but I've seen verifiable proof that you were only 6'5". That this 6'9" thing is a lie, a straight up fallacy.
My dad is 6'5", and I'm taller than him. This is easy to prove. But
you
anyway,
be marginally taller and still be 6'5".
Also, I have a picture with Robert Covington. Like, I'm standing next to him.
I'm not a Blink 182 person. That's not my thing.
He's in the NBA, RJ.
Well, who's the Blink 182 guy that you?
Mark Hoppus. He's not tall.
That's the picture I've seen. That I'm just like, whatever. So
yeah. Robert Covington is 6'7", and I have a picture with him where you can see I'm clearly taller than him. So anyway,
6'5".
Also,
and
Chuchu
change.
Maduabum. How tall is he? Chuchu Maduabum. Let me look him up real quick. He is 6'9", and I think I have a picture where I'm either like level or.
We need to see
taller.
this picture again. I've seen proof. That's all I'll say. I can't tell you what I've seen, but I've seen proof that you're only 6'5". So.
I think it's reasonable to take the points because that is a lot of points. It's a division game.
I think you are starting to, like we need a fraud alert for Brandon. Brandon has not taken the Eagles. Like you think they're this great team, they're the Super Bowl contender in your estimation. I haven't heard you take the Eagles one time this year. You've taken the Lions points, you've taken the Vikings points.
I was right about the Lions points. What are you talking about?
Well, still, like if you believe they're this great powerhouse of a team, like how can and you think Wentz sucks? You think Wentz is terrible? You think he can't hold on to the ball? You went through all his fumbles. Like how are you going to possibly tell me, even though I believe in Wentz and the points, that you don't believe the Eagles cover? You are all in on the Eagles. You are all out on Wentz. If this was not a perfect firestorm for a 6'5" person to take the Eagles as 6.5 point favorites. It's 6.5. That's 6'5". It's your thing. How could you thumb this in the nose? Come on.
Thumb this in the nose. I think you mean thumb your nose at this.
Look, the analogy was great. Don't ruin it with the fact that I botched the ending. All right. The 6'5", 6.5 thing was gold. You got to give me credit for that.
I botch things all the time. I think the Eagles win. I really do. I know it's a short week and all that, and I said this already.
I think they win, but I'll take the points.
I mean, the points are tempting. 6.5 is a lot. I mean, the game doesn't even have to be close. It could be garbage time production.
Like the Lions Commanders have. Right.
Yeah. So, I just think that's a lot to kind of. And who cares? The spread doesn't ultimately matter a ton. The outcome of the game does. I think the Eagles win. I think they advance to 3-0. Big win to get up in the division. It's already big that they're 2-0 in the conference. Like low key, pretty valuable. The Cowboys here. They only beat an AFC team. Same thing with the Commanders. Only beat an AFC team. Those are the least valuable wins you can have. All the while, the Commanders also lost an NFC game, and so did the Cowboys. So that hurts against them. But yeah, I think this is a win for the Eagles. I feel good about Jalen Hurts right now. I feel like Carson Wentz is going to make mistakes or a mistake at some point. And I think having the Eagles fans in the crowd there at FedEx Field, it's going to get to him. Honestly, what's more important than anything, RJ? What's the one word I'm going to point to that's more important than anything?
Content.
Vibes. And the vibes for the Eagles right now are immaculate. You can't argue that otherwise.
They are very, very positive. I mean, James Harden, we're talking Robert Covington. James Harden was at the game. Like, it was a big old deal.
Bryce Harper, Bradley Cooper, Questlove.
Travis Kelce
in the Eagles jersey.
Well, that's his brother's jersey. Like he wasn't like.
Still, it's cool. It's cool seeing.
But like, it's different if he's wearing a Devontae Smith.
I get that, but how often do you get to see like one NFL player wearing another team, like another player?
Trayvon Diggs and Stephon Diggs do that all the time. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
that's a rare thing. That's not like every.
I think it's become way more common.
How many other NFL brothers can you name?
The Cooks, Dalvin and James. The St. Browns, Amon-Ra and
and how many of them have you seen in the other jersey? And how many of those are even like?
I'm just saying. I'm with you. I used to think it was like a really rare thing. I used to think it was like amazing that Peyton and Eli were these brothers and both are number one overall. I thought it was amazing that the Harbaughs coached against each other in a Super Bowl. Like, there's a lot of brothers. There's a lot of siblings. Like, it's certainly like really on the coaching level, but it's not like. And Julius Jones's brother, Thomas Jones, is in the NFL. Like, we can name a lot of examples. Like, it wouldn't be hard.
As a quick aside to this, I'm very bummed that Frank Gore couldn't keep playing and they still weren't signing him because I was
and then that he wound up being a terrible person. So,
that too, but I mean, yes, absolutely. But I'm saying in terms of, there's a bunch of talk in the NBA about LeBron's going to stick around till his son plays. We weren't that far off, I think, from Frank Gore and his son playing in the NFL at the same time. That would be wild. Like, that's never going to happen, right? Like,
that's way more rare than the brother thing. The brother thing
would have to be. It'd have to be like a kicker, really, if that's ever going to happen in the NFL, right? Like a kicker would have to play, and maybe another kicker's son could play.
Yeah, like how did Adam? So the NFC East. But actually, before I get there, Doug Peterson, have you looked at his first 7 games? Because it was just like a bunch of narratives.
What do you mean?
So the Jaguars' first 7 games for Doug Peterson at Washington. So you right away.
Okay, the rest of the schedule.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Jaguars. Yeah. So Doug Peterson his first game at Washington. So you got Peterson Wentz. Game 2, Peterson Reich. Game 3, Peterson Chargers, the team he should have been the head coach of a year ago. I said that when we first started the NFC East mixtape. Then Game 4, Peterson against the Eagles, right? So now we've got another revenge game. Game 5, Peterson Texans. That's the one that has no emotional attachment. Game 6, Peterson Reich again. And then Game 7, Peterson Giants. Of his first 7 games, 3 of them are against the NFC East, the division he coached in and won a Super Bowl in. 2 of them are against Frank Reich and the Indianapolis Colts, and then the other 2 are the Chargers and Texans. Wow, that was a really heavy onslaught of narrative. Maybe it was because the schedule makers anticipated the Jaguars not being good after that, so they're like, we got to get all the juice out of this that we can early on in the season.
I mean, the Eagles have some of that, Dougie P returning to Philly, and then
Right.
obviously Carson Wentz this week. There's some of that going on here as well. But yeah, let's give a shout out really quick to Doug Peterson, because I think you and I have maintained, at least I have, here that this, and I think we both can acknowledge that Frank Reich has done some good things.
But yeah, the take of like Reich was
past.
the genius behind the Super Bowl has
it's
aged
just
so poorly.
People really bad. But it's not even just that point, because whatever, we're all wrong about things. I've been kind of wrong about Jalen Hurts apparently, but just like this idea that people are so entrenched in this thing that like it's just, where is this coming from? And I'm just so happy that it didn't prove to be true, because like, come on, like it's just people, and maybe you're going to bring up Mike McCarthy, but people like discredit a Super Bowl winning head coach because
no, don't talk about discrediting a Super Bowl winning head coach when you slight Mike McCarthy all the time. Like, like you can't have it both ways. I mean, like if there's a natural cachet that comes with just being a Super Bowl winning head coach, then I'm
not saying he doesn't deserve credit for it. I'm saying I don't feel good about him getting back there. There's a difference. And if you want to say that about Doug, then that's another thing. But you can't tell me retroactively he doesn't deserve credit for it.
I am so happy that the national media and even the Indianapolis media is catching on to RJ Ochoa trashing the Colts. I got to tell you, I got to give a shout out to all the mixologists. I think
I was the original person on this, though. Whenever yes, I was. I was like, the Wentz trade is so bad. They think they're going to salvage his career.
But that wasn't the take that wasn't like the hill I died on. What bothered me was how they sold him out. Wentz was not a perfect player for them, but they made him the scapegoat for all of their issues. And what upsets me, but you know this as well as I do, there are certain teams that NFL media and NFL lore will take on and hoist up more than others. The Eagles are one of those. You've acknowledged that. The Colts are another one. Like they have this Midwest vibe where everybody wants to be like, the Colts so cool. Nobody will point any fingers at Chris Ballard or Frank Reich.
Chris Ballard especially, dude. Like why did everyone just decide he's like the best GM in the NFL? Like everyone just collectively
had the
decided
rivalries back on, comment like, oh, because Andrew Luck retired on them. Like, oh my God. No, like they are frauds. They are frauds who are completely and totally selling out everybody else. Matt Ryan's next. I actually feel bad for Matt Ryan that he hitched his wagon to these dudes. But anyway, I did want to say this.
You can find more national talk at the SB Nation NFL show on Friday.
So I want to look at the next 4 games quickly for every single team in the division, because we're about to these first 2 weeks a little bit, I don't want to say fluky, but like, we're starting to learn who these teams are. And these next 4 weeks are going to be rocky.
Period.
Dallas is next 4 weeks at the Giants, Commanders, at Rams, Eagles. So you got or at Eagles. So you got 3 division games and the reigning Super Bowl champions.
Yeah,
that's the next 4 weeks.
That's an important stretch,
right? So obviously there's a lot of crossover games here. The Giants next 4 games: Cowboys on Monday Night Football, Bears easy win, right? Packers not as intimidating as it was once thought to be, but still probably a loss. And then the Ravens. So we're talking about at least 2 losses, right? The Packers and Ravens games for them.
Can't wait to talk about the Ravens and the Dolphins game on Friday.
But at least the Packers, I know you are down on the Ravens, but we both think the Ravens are beating the Giants. So
yeah, but let's say the Giants do beat the Cowboys this week.
They're beating the Bears. So
that's what they could start 4-0.
So I'm saying of their next 4 games, they're winning 2 maximum, which would be Dallas and Chicago. So
yes, I agree.
At the end of week 6, they have at least 2 losses. They're maybe 3-3. So that's a big difference from being 2-0, right? So that's my point. Oh, well, let's go play this game.
It's also something you would sign up for if you're a Giants fan.
Right. Let's go play that game really quickly mathematically with the Cowboys. They're 1-1. So the next 3 games at New York, Washington, at the Rams, at the Eagles. I'll say they split. I'll give them conservatively, and I've been saying this, the next 2 games. The Rams don't scare me right now. Like the way that you would think they would, but that's still probably a loss. I think it's very possible they go 1-3.
In LA too. Not that like they have a great home crowd, but still, it's not a home game. But whatever.
I think it's very possible they go 1-3, which would put them at 2-4, maybe 3-3 if they're lucky. I think if they win 2 of these games, it's the next 2, and then they win
2 at the very most. And I don't.
That's what I'm saying. But if they win 2, it's the division. It's the first 2 divisional ones. The Dak thing, if he's back for the Rams game and the Philly game, that changes the calculus. Obviously, we're talking about what we're looking at right now. It does. We haven't seen a whole game of him. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it didn't look good, but it does. Like, how can you say it doesn't change the calculus?
Are the Cowboys better off with Cooper Rush? 888-729.
The Philadelphia Eagles next 4 games: at Washington, dub; Jacksonville, dub. It would be so funny. Just so funny if they lost to Wentz and Doug Peterson back-to-back. That would be so funny.
I'm very confident that will not happen.
I know.
Obviously, you can clip me saying that now, but...
At Arizona and then Dallas. I'll give them a loss against the Cardinals. Like that game looks tougher than it did. I don't think it looks tough, but it looks tougher than it did.
It's a tough place to play, like low key. Like it's like Arizona's not like the easiest place to play. It's the desert. There's some juice out there, surprisingly.
Well, and there's some juice in that offense. Like again, kind of the Commanders aren't the Cardinals, but like Kyler can make up a lot of points in a hurry, and he's a very, very, people say what you want, video games, whatever, but he's a very, very dynamic player. Like
he's erratic. Like right. And part of erratic is like good. It's not all bad.
So I'll say they at least lose one game there. In the next 4, the Eagles.
Okay.
That's again, we're being somewhat conservative with all this. Like people, oh my gosh, you hater! You don't have the Eagles going 6-0. Oh my gosh, the Cowboys homer.
So do you think our listeners sound like?
I don't know. Based on the way my mentions were Monday night, I would not be surprised. But we do have some incredible listeners, to be very fair. So at least one loss, and the Dak thing is a coin flip. So I'll say 1.5 pending the Dak thing, and if he plays the week before, how he looks, whatever. But that's it. Like 2 would be the absolute most, and it would involve Dak coming back and playing well, obviously. But still, like you're talking about
2 wins at the most. You're saying 2
losses at the most. That's what I'm saying. It would be the Cardinals, and then you agree with me. It would be the Cardinals and the Cowboys if Dak came back and played to the level that we've seen him play at before.
Yeah, which is again a big...
because they're not losing to the Commanders or Jaguars. So that's our point.
It's just not as simple. Not that you're saying it is, but I'm just like when Cowboys fans are factoring this in, like you don't know what he's going to look like. Like it's not as simple as Dak's back. Everything is fixed. First of all, again, he didn't look good when he was healthy, and second of all, it's a throwing hand injury. Like Russ, think about Russ last year when he came back. He did not look right
or Breeze,
for a while.
Or Breeze when he did it right. No, again, all I'm saying is like that we talk about. Can you see a path? That the path is there. That's all. Finally,
Huge
Washington's next 4 games: Philly this week, at Dallas. We gave them a loss there, maybe. Tennessee at Chicago. That Chicago game's Thursday night. That's gross. Like,
I think they lose one at Tennessee and Chicago.
I disagree. I think they win both of those games, which is why I think the most consequential game, like NFC East wise for the apocalypse that we've talked about here for every team's next 4, is Sunday with Philadelphia in Washington. Because if for whatever reason the Eagles lose, or like it would be more the Eagles losing to me than it would be the Commanders winning. But if for whatever reason, all of a sudden Washington's 2-1, then they play Dallas, and maybe Dallas is 2-1, like we said. I don't know how that goes, but I do think that Tennessee looks awful, dude. Like
I agree,
they look terrible.
So the Bears.
So again, if we give Washington 3 wins in their next 4 games, like that could be interesting. That's what I'm saying. Like there's a path there for them. I really think the most butterfly effecty game that we're going to watch is Sunday's game between the Commanders and the Eagles. If the Eagles smush them, then okay, the Commanders are maybe just a wild card team at best. But a win on Sunday for the Commanders changes the calculus a lot.
If the Eagles come out and just smash Washington, like it's pretty bad news, I would say, for the rest of the division. Like that's like, oh crap, like probably not catching this team, especially with the schedule that the Eagles have.
I think the biggest butterfly effect thing involving the division that isn't related to the division are the Titans. Because like the Titans are the only team, let me rephrase this, the only team that every team in the division plays that could change quarterbacks. So let me ask you this. The Titans play Washington in week 5. They're the earliest to play them. Who's the starting quarterback for Tennessee in that game against Washington week 5?
I think if I'm not mistaken, I think we looked this up before. The Titans have like a late bye. I think the bye week is going to matter for that.
It's actually the week after the Washington game. So.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think Willis comes in until after the bye at the soonest.
Okay, so that would mean that the Giants and Commanders both got Tannehill. The Eagles host the Titans in week 13. So you think Willis is the quarterback by then?
I think there is a 60% chance that he is.
Finally, Dallas gets them on Thursday Night Football in week 17. If it's 60% for the Eagles, it's like 90% for the Cowboys. I think.
Yeah, I mean, because at that point, too, I mean, the Titans could just, well, then again,
at that point, the season could be over and it could just be about like evaluating for next year.
I was about to say that, but the AFC South is so bad, though. they could still be hanging around.
Wow. We did it
all.
I mean,
you admit it. You think the Colts are the worst team, and the Texans obviously aren't good, and the Jags, I love Dougie P, but again, haven't won a road game since 2019.
I don't know who the best team. I think the Jaguars are the best team. That's not saying much, but
They're
the
first
only
right
team
now.
they're the only team with a win. I mean,
but come on, like they're definitely not good. They
this
might
is
be
going to come down to like
at least bad.
their like inner division records. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, can you sweep the AFC South, Doug? Like, because if you can, then like that's it. Like, welcome to.
That's all he has to do. Don't even win any other games. Just be beat up in the AFC South.
Be 6-11. That'd be so funny. Wow. Okay, we did it all. We said it all. I did it with an injury. I'm starting to feel a little bit better, if I'm being honest. But do you have anything else that you want to add, Brandon? Anything at all
about stupid thing?
Oh yeah, I tweeted that we were. So I tweeted that we were going to record, and I said that you promised, even though you hadn't at the time, to incorporate 3 random phrases that were responses. My intention was for you to do that naturally throughout the show. You did not do that. So
you didn't
if you
really
do that
communicate that, but okay.
I thought that was really obvious. So that's my bad.
Weigh in if you think I'm in the right or if RJ's in the right. Hashtag BLG was right or hashtag RJ was right. And tweet at us once again.
Okay, well, give us your 3 phrases.
These aren't like phrases. Some of these responses, it's just like a sentence.
Some of them are phrases. I guess I think you're taking the word phrases. No, I think you're taking the word phrase. Like, is it a conventional phrase? Like,
right.
You know, the grass is always greener on the other side. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant like lines or something. So, but use them in a sentence related to the NFC East.
Well,
that's
the
your
first
challenge.
one is a sentence. Hurts is becoming better than Dak.
Okay, you're gonna give credit to the person who tweeted it to us.
That is at Japeth Biller.
I think it's Byler. I think it's Byler. Yeah.
Interesting name. I haven't seen that one before.
And I think it's Japheth because it's PH. Japheth.
Maybe. This one's from M Rivera 5115. Living in your head rent free. I know you like that one. And I'll give a shout out to our guy Conan, who said I was wrong, obviously referring to me being too negative about Jalen Hurts. So
I think he might have been referring to me in my apology letter about AJ Brown.
No, because he got Conan, our good friend Conan, had to turn off the mixtape last week because of our Hurts dialogue. So I think he's referencing that.
You didn't read the one I was hoping you would read, and it comes to us from Tom. I don't know if it's Coughlin. It'd be interesting if it was. It'd be very NFC Easty if it was.
He's probably a listener.
But this Coughlin is Coghlan. So it might be like colon, maybe. I really don't know. But his response was, "They looked scrumptious." I liked that one a lot. So, give everybody a piece of advice. It can be about life. It could be about tech. It could be about pop culture. It could be a TV show to watch. Give everybody a piece of advice, Brandon.
Piece of advice that I haven't already said here on the podcast. Clearly have a lot, and I'm definitely not stalling. Oh, not a sponsor, but I have to say, I'm a fan of the Dunkin' Donuts app. It's a good app. You know, sometimes you have these apps out there with like the loyalty programs aren't that good. Like, you know, it takes like 1 billion purchases to maybe get like $1 off. Like, it's just like total and whatever. I mean, it's better than nothing. But Dunkin' Donuts does this thing where every Monday, RJ, you get 100 points towards a free coffee, and you only need 200 points to get a free coffee. So you go 2 Mondays. How many points
do you get if you buy a coffee, though?
It depends on what kind, size, and everything. But let's just say you get a basic like a medium or whatever standard size. That's probably like 20 something points. So it's a big deal.
Wow. So you get like the equivalent of like 5 coffees worth of points. Wow.
Exactly. Again, not a sponsor, but I've turned the aforementioned Holden and E and my friend Zach onto this as well. And they're all believers. So, or Zach may have been doing it already. But the point is, the Dunkin' app, it's a good value. So there you go.
Are you somebody who, this is my last question, who is meticulous about the way your apps are on your phone? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you have, like, no. Is it super organized? Do you have folders, or is it just like a mess of like looking for app after app after app?
I only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. I have some folders, not a ton. I could do a better job of cleaning it up, but it works for me. I don't really need to change it. I'm getting a new iPhone. I don't know if I told you this or the listeners. Maybe I did at one point. Very left side of my phone here, like this part.
Yeah, you can't like. You talked about this.
It's killing me. And so I had to order the iPhone 14 Pro Max.
I think the way you go about your apps is a disaster. Like it's a big deal for an app to get promoted for me. Like I have 2 main screens that I use. My third screen is all folders. So like If you're a top tier app, you get used a lot. You're on one of the two screens. It's a big deal. So if not, you get relegated. Those are the rules. Should we leave? Should we end it? Should we do it? We said it all? We did it all?
TGIF.
Congratulations to the Houston Astros, AOS champions.